What do planking, Gangnam Style, hashtags, and viewability have in common? They were all popular in 2012, but while the first three fizzled out, viewability has lingered. Adelaide thinks it's time to retire that relic. That's why they created AU, a modern metric you can use to plan, buy, optimize, and even trade media. Adweek calls AU the attention economy's most widely recognized metric, and it swept the measurement category at last year's Ads Exchanger Awards. Don't get stuck with a fanny pack of metrics. Ask your agency about switching to AU. You can also visit AdelaideMetrics.com. That's AdelaideMetrics.com.
This week's interview is with Bill Wise, the CEO of Mediaocean, and Grant Parker, the president of Innovid. They were recorded live at Marketecture Live in conversation with me after formally introducing the new name of the combined company, which will be Innovid. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let's start with what does it mean? Maybe, Bill, you can tell us. What does this acquisition mean for the greater ecosystem?
Yeah, so, well, first off, right person, right ad, right time. Kevin O'Connor, the original founder of DoubleClick.
Maybe. I'd love to see it in writing.
I was there.
You were there?
I was there.
What do you mean? Did he come out of it from his brain like that?
Yeah. No. It came out on an investor call, an investor pitch.
And he made it up on the fly?
No. It was pre-calculated. Right. Okay. But I just wanted to give the audience.
It's viable that he came up with it. Yeah. Okay.
No. It's just the truth. It's just the truth. So listen. We believe there needs to be neutrality in the ad tech industry, and there needs to be scale. And when you look at a lot of companies in the space, and this is because marketers are leaning in and making technology and data decisions, and so we look at it and said, Flashtalking was a great acquisition, kind of subscale. Innovid was a publicly traded company, subscale, and adding the two together. Now we're kind of at a scale, and I look at scale as like $250 million plus of revenue, bordering on $100 million of EBITDA, and so you need that level of scale to make the investments necessary to compete with Google, right? Which this entire room is competing with Google.
So is the investment the key area where scale matters, or is scale matter also in other areas?
Scale matters across the board, right? Procter & Gamble, Unilever, General Motors, aren't going to rely on their entire infrastructure with a company that isn't viable, profitable, and at scale.
Right. And Grant, I kind of made it sound in your intro like you changed your name. You didn't change your name. You changed your title. You're the president of Flashtalking, now Innovid. So tell us about the name change and how you thought through it.
Yeah, I think, so I was president of Flashtalking, now president of Innovid. Zvika is the CEO, former CEO of Innovid, now still the CEO of Innovid. Mm-hmm. So we have this kind of legacy. We chose a name that, we had kind of the choice of, do we create something new, and then you give up all the brand equity that both groups had, or do you pick one or the other? And they both have really strong brands, and ultimately we felt like the name Innovid represented innovation in video. While we are an omni-channel solution, video is still the most important thing to advertisers, sight, sound, and motion. And so, I think the other thing about Flashtalking kind of, going away as you see it, what is a brand, right? It's an idea, it's tech, and it's people. Mm-hmm. And for us, Flashtalking and Innovid share the same idea. And Bill talked a lot about it. Independence, unbiased, at scale. Our tech is not going away. The Flashtalking and Innovid tech are both coming together. We're taking the best pieces of both to merge into one unified platform. And then the people, Zvika and I are both partnering together to merge these two companies.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think the Flash player is ready for a revival, but maybe I'm just...
That may have played a role.
So what does it mean to clients in terms of integration, timelines, how their products are changing, et cetera?
Well, first, I think just to talk a little bit about what this represents for clients and play off of what Bill was saying. Clients have had this difficult choice. Do I go with the easy button where I have this consolidated tech stack, I have no control, no transparency, but it feels really integrated and easy? Mm-hmm. Or do I create a ton of control and transparency, own the supply chain, but I have to stitch together a bunch of point solutions, and then all of a sudden I'm back to fragmentation and challenges?
Yeah.
Now we feel like by consolidating this omni-channel solution across Flashtalking and Innovid, we can actually deliver on the best of both, where you get integrated consolidated, easy, but you still have choice, control, and transparency.
So I talked a bit about AI and impact across the board. Bill, could you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the agency world, especially the big holding companies who I know you're very close with?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we shortly after we announced Innovid, we announced that 3 of the largest 4 holding companies are actually investing in the combination of Mediaocean and Innovid. And so now they're shareholders. And a big part of that is actually their investment in AI because they're such a people-intensive organizations. So we're working, very closely with them to look at how can we enable AI on top of them, and so to be determined. But a really intelligent guy that works for me said, I think a lot of companies are over-indexing in AI in the short term and under-indexing in AI in the long term. By the way, that was Grant. I just wanted to get that out before he did. And so we're excited. We think there's a massive amount of opportunity, and a lot of it is really in leveraging kind of the tactical execution. It's not kind of strategy up in the cloud. It's like, how can AI increase the operations and efficiency of our business like tomorrow?
Do you have any specifics? Have you seen any specifics without naming company names, like where the investment is taking place?
A lot of it is in the actual execution of campaign management.
Campaign management.
How can you automate it?
Right. So do you think that's, I geek out on this stuff. Do you think there's an AI layer in front of tools like the new Innovid or other tools, your competitors, or do you think the tools themselves have the AI embedded?
All the above, right? I think those people who have a lot of people doing, simple things like trafficking, which can be automated, optimization, which can be automated, will layer on their own AI. And then I think, we have 7 initiatives within Mediaocean, and a lot of them are more tactical in nature than strategic in nature, I would say.
What's your take on that?
Well, I think AI, you need massive data, right? You need the ability to automate complex steps. And yes, then there's this third component of generating new outputs that are kind of human level. Right. But I think it starts with, do you have massive data? Now, we can clearly say that we do. We've been critical to the workflow for advertisers for a long time, and we can automate those steps. And I think a lot is made of Gen AI, and I think it will be an important piece. But to Bill's point, it's kind of overlooked. Do you own the data? Do you have control of the data? Do you know how your data is being used? And then do you have enough consolidation of your tech stack that automating these steps actually matter?
And what matters the most to agencies right now? What's the step that's like, oh, that's a low-hanging fruit?
I mean, at big picture, creative and media are still so divided, right? So I've got like totally different agencies, workflows, and even strategies between my creative process and my media process. I think there's a ton that can be done to automate how those come together, both at a high level strategy, but also at a tactical, like I just need to get the right message in front of the right person instantaneously.
Got it. Let's talk about the roadmap. So what are you guys working on? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think we're excited about the fact that both companies have been investing in AI for a while. And now this kind of supercharges that. But when we think about what does the platform actually do, right? It's creative, it's delivery, it's measurement, and it's optimization, all stitched together. I think from a creative perspective, Flashtalking and Innovid both been leaders in the creative optimization space. Right. I think it's often overlooked in terms of how do I get the most ROI out of my media? And if you don't have relevant creative, it's the same as an unviewable impression, right? An irrelevant impression is just equally bad. And so I think our roadmap actually delivers that in more places than ever across an omni-channel kind of platform, whether that's from linear to CTV all the way to digital, audio, social. And then I think from a measurement perspective, it's about reach and frequency across DSPs. Right. It's about being able to optimize outcomes in real time based on which creative message is resonating. And so I think that kind of optimization layer has often been more at the micro kind of DSP level versus at the macro level across the entire investment chain.
You say macro level, so are we including linear in that?
Yes.
So it's really, so for the big holding companies that use like your Prisma software, you've got a view about everything they're doing, even if you're not executing at all.
100%. And a lot of what, ad tech platforms, especially ad servers, they haven't necessarily had media costs as a variable. And so they can do a lot of optimization on, resonance, reach and frequency, even outcomes. But what about cost? Mediaocean is obviously where most of the, at least in the US, the advertising ecosystem manages their supply chain.
Right.
And so pairing the cost with the actual optimization technology and delivery technology, I think is unique and allows us to do more.
And listen, everyone's been calling for the death of linear television for years, and you know, we've been processing $70 billion of linear television for 30 years now, and it continues to be $70 billion. And so when you think about sight, sound, and motion advertising, being able to create one marketplace design across linear television, national and spot and local, video, and CTV, put that all together, that's the power of what we're creating here.
Right. So one of the things that Innovid announced in the past year, they were on my pod and I was at their event, was their Harmony initiative. And for those of you who don't know Harmony, well, why don't you explain Harmony and how it relates to your future?
Yeah, Harmony is the brand that kind of represents optimization and that flywheel effect that I was talking about.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different products. One is around supply path optimization, being able to deliver with the ad server directly to the publisher where it makes sense. And then also being able to see across reach and frequency for the user or household across all different channels, and being able to actually impact that by sending signals into the media environment to either add frequency or decrease frequency for households and users. So that's where we're at right now. But I think as a brand, it represents a much bigger opportunity to do even more in terms of changing budgets, optimizing creative, being able to actually influence the many different places where biddable is taking place.
Right. So, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about waste, fraud, and abuse, here in the U.S. with Doge.
Doge for ad tech?
Yeah, we're Doge for ad tech. It's we'll look at waste, fraud, and abuse, and
I'm sure your employees
and
will
expose
love
it
to
all.
hear that.
And expose it all. And by the way, I just made that up.
No, yeah. Might want to workshop that one a little bit. So Harmony, one of the things Harmony did, the first release was what you call it SPO. Basically, it enabled the buy side to create programmatic guaranteed deals effectively without a DSP. That's kind of a dumb way to put it, but what's the vision of Mediaocean about the future of DSPs? Because you guys don't have a DSP, right? But you're doing a lot of things around it.
Yeah, well, so if you think about just the overall supply path, it bothers me when agencies, and listen, I don't think anyone in their priority list, anyone like replacing your ad server doesn't make the first page, probably doesn't make the second page, right? But if you think about the ad server is like laying down railroad tracks. Once you have them, they're done. You don't need more railroad tracks, except if you are the company that owns that railroad tracks and you start, pushing through products, drugs or whatever. And that's where the ad server is incredibly strategic. So when we go to agencies and we talk about replacing the ad server, it's not about replacing the ad server. It's the ad server is the starting point. If you care about optimizing creative, if you care about orchestration and personalization of your paid, owned, and earned media, if you care about optimizing the supply path, if you care about really efficient brand safety and verification, right? So those are the things that we're working with our agency partners on, and say, do you want Google to own that starting point, or do you want an independent, neutral ad tech company to control that starting point? And so that's starting to resonate, but it keeps going back to the easy button, right? And Google's the easy button. And so, we need to be strategic about it. We need to be thinking about, for each marketer, what is their pain point? Does personalization really matter to them? Does, eliminating non-working media costs, does that matter to them? And work from there.
Yeah, that really resonates for me because, I used to be the product manager for DFA, and the cynical point of view, which I had because I'm always the cynical person in the room, is that this product doesn't do anything. DFA, all it does is count stuff. But the more proactive point of view is that your buy-side ad server can do a lot of things. It's just hard because you don't control the transactions.
Yeah. And then specifically, because your question was about DSPs, is the ad tech marketplace is a lot of duopoly, natural duopolies. Like the top two seem to get the most market share. But now, and a few years ago, I would have said, yeah, the duopoly is there. It's DV360's Trade Desk. But now you're starting, Amazon their DSP is having a lot of success. Yahoo DSP, particularly with all the data from Yahoo and having that graph is getting a lot of play. Viant has done a great job overlaying AI into their DSP. So the more fragmentation we have in the DSP landscape, we think is good for the market. It's good for us. And then also you're now starting to see SSPs create, some buy-side capabilities. And now I think what you're seeing is DSPs trying to go direct to publishers, SSPs going direct to marketers and agencies. And so we think that level of fragmentation is good. And that's where an ad server actually becomes very, very strategic.
Right, you don't care. There could be 1,000 DSPs.
Yep.
You don't care.
Well, there was an assumption, I think, to Bill's point, that there was only going to be one or two winners in the DSP race. And I think what we see now is I almost feel like DSPs aren't that different than walled gardens. Walled gardens are exclusive access to inventory. DSPs are becoming exclusive access to data.
Right.
So, okay, or in some cases inventory as well. Yeah. But advertisers, especially enterprise advertisers, are going to be across 10 to 20 different walled gardens or DSPs. And each of them is going to provide unique data, optimization capabilities, their own AI, but that's a ton of fragmentation. Yeah. So you need an operating system over the top to help orchestrate the whole thing.
It's fascinating because in the early days of programmatic, before we even called it programmatic, everyone assumed both the DSP and SSP market were going to turn into enterprise software products, where there would be just a couple, they'd be really big, and you'd pay them on an annual flat fee, and none of that turned out to be true. Both businesses turned into media businesses, which have the inherent fragmentation around audience and data and things like that. But so now the buy-side ad server market is effectively a duopoly, right? Google and Mediaocean. I know you can't say that, but I'll say it. So let's talk about Google then, your main competitor. So what's your hot take on antitrust? No, that was for you. You're the boss. you can't let him hang himself on that one.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, Harry.
Listen, I actually don't think they're going to spin out DFP. I also don't think it's going to be a fast and swift thing. I think they're going to fight it. I think Google has more lawyers working on this than most ad tech companies have engineers, right? So they have hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of people in Washington right now. And so, our take is we actually have a better product. And kind of ripping up railroad tracks isn't an easy thing to do. But we have a better product. We are neutral. We have better solutions for the buy side. We're not talking about the sell side ad server. We're exclusively on the buy side. And so we're just going to continue to educate the market on why our solutions are better and they should adopt them. And I think, we have a fair shot to become larger than Google in the buy side ad tech market.
All right.
My take on antitrust, I don't really care. To Bill's point, we're not trying to compete with Google.
Right.
Google has 20,000 customers. We don't want to have 20,000 customers. We want to focus on enterprise marketers being able to solve their hardest problems, being able to have a team that's dedicated to them, no 1-800 numbers or help websites. And so that kind of white glove kind of partnership is very different than what that large scale company represents. The other thing I'll say is that Google is an incredibly important media partner.
Yeah.
So for us, we want to be deeply integrated to Google, and we are. And so you have to kind of separate out Google from Google's buy-side technology solution for advertisers in the enterprise segment. That's what we want to compete with, and we've been really successful so far doing that.
All right, let's talk about two other product areas that you compete in that are interesting. One being the whole sort of verification, viewability space. So many people may not know, or as I didn't know, so I assume other people didn't know, which is that you have a full brand in that area called Protected Media, I believe. So a lot of stuff going on here. You have controversies. You have Brian O'Kelly entering the market. You have the Goodhart brothers entering the market. So it's kind of interesting space. Any thoughts there?
a lot of thoughts. So again, in the spirit of kind of these natural duopolies, there was a time where Trade Desk was kind of the startup against kind of Turn and Media Math, right?
Yeah.
And those two companies had large market share. So there is an ability for a new entrant to come in with better technology to do it more efficiently with a better mousetrap. We believe that's protected against DV and IS. And so we acquired a company called Protected, and we've gave it its own brand because it's that important. And we also just think that the market is paying way too much for brand safety and verification.
Okay.
And so we have a better product that's cheaper. And but again, it's hard because DV and IS are great companies providing great solutions and have done fabulous jobs in the market. And so we were kind of on our own. And by the way, you never want to be the third horse in a 3-horse race. And that's what we've been in the last couple of years. Yeah. So our available market was really companies that use our ad server. And so, last year we signed Adobe. We have Procter & Gamble using us for a little bit. And so that business has really grown. We won the TikTok business, so we're kind of the brand safety verification for TikTok's O&O. So that business has grown really nicely, but obviously DV and IS are kind of the heavyweights in the space. And so it's actually comforting that, smart people like Brian O'Kelly and Jonah Goodhart are also looking at the space because they see opportunity.
Isn't there sort of a dynamic where because the risk of not using the well-established vendor is like you could lose your job? Like it's like, hey, boss, I chose vendor number 3 instead of IS, and then our ad showed on a pornography site. That like better mousetrap doesn't matter because it's like the rational thing to do is to keep going with the well-known brands.
Well, I think you have to go through the work of proving yourself, and that takes time, right? So we went through the exhaustive efforts of getting MRC accreditation in all the major areas of brand safety and viewability for that brand. So there's a third party that's actually said, yes, this is the same quality, the same assurance. Then you have to kind of scratch and claw to get those first couple customers, and that establishes credibility, and that's kind of where we're at now. And look, I think we're going to continue to be independent and integrated. So we want to integrate with DV, we want to integrate with IS, we want to integrate with Jonah's new thing. But I think what's really important to us is that we also, offer consolidation and the automation that I talked about. So having something built into the ad server is incredibly important. There's nothing more annoying than having to, have all this automation and then you have to send it to another company, wrap the tags, send it back, wait for it to make sure, there's a lot of manual steps. Now we can just click a button and it's done. And so there is some workflow that outweighs the potential risks, but I also think we've mitigated the risks and proven that.
It's like a business school case study to watch what's going to happen in that space for the next couple of years. All right. Well, I think we'll call it there. So everyone give a big round of applause to Bill and Graham.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Marketecture podcast. New episodes come out every Friday, and an insightful vendor interview is published each Monday. You can subscribe to our library of hundreds of executive interviews at marketecture.tv. You can also sign up for free for our weekly newsletter with my original strategic insights on the week's news at news.marketecture.tv. And if you're feeling social, we operate a vibrant Slack community that you can apply to join at adtechgod.com.